I can't believe the day is finally here. Deadlink is officially out of early access. All 4 levels are playable, all difficulty settings are in place, all 4 classes are ready to experiment with. The release of Deadlink sees the introduction of the 4th and final class Juggernaut, and we'll talk about him in a bit. Before we start, I want to say that it has been a tremendous honor to have assisted in this game's development. Over a year ago, the devs contacted me for early testing back when it was just 1 level. Within 10 minutes, I knew it was something special. When I talked to the team after a few hours, I told them, "You have created a brilliant game, don't change anything about this gameplay." They were happy to hear it, as they're a new studio making their first game. It was absolutely shocking to me how amazing Deadlink was in this early stage, and it's only gotten better. I want to congratulate everyone at Grubby Entertainment on this incredible creation, and I want to thank them for allowing me to be part of the process. Deadlink's gameplay loop is close to perfection in my eyes, and the game is a strong contender for my best game of 2023. Deadlink is what you get when you mix Doom Eternal with Hades. The Doom Eternal influence is obvious just from looking at the gameplay. The starting class has a grapple hook, you're doing weapon swap combos with a shotgun and rocket launcher, and it's a very resource-focused combat loop where you use your abilities, the grapple, the push, and grenades to mark enemies with a glow that makes them drop ammo and armor when they die. You're always actively in the heat of combat. Killing is what gives you the resources you need to kill more. Your primary weapon has infinite ammo but must be reloaded, and the secondary weapon requires ammo either from pickups or, more importantly, ammo drops from enemies killed during the marked state. Playing as the soldier class, a killed enemy will give you a few armor points and drop 1 rocket and 1 shotgun shell, both of which go directly into your guns. You see here that if I kill a marked enemy with a shotgun, that shell is immediately replaced by the one the enemy gives you, so you could actually play in a way where you never have to manually reload. The C-balls around the arena can be punched or broken by some abilities once upgraded, and each ball drops a few rounds for your secondary weapon, and eventually C-balls will activate temporary buffs. The Hades aspect of this game comes in its roguelite structure. 4 levels called biomes, each with a boss fight at the end. If you die, you gotta restart, and after every arena fight you get to pick some kind of upgrade or currency. As you play, you'll gain XP and tokens that allow you to unlock permanent upgrades that make your character stronger. Basics like damage increase, armor regeneration, and extra dash, but also very specific things like being able to pick a weapon upgrade at the beginning of your run, and enhancing the properties of your special abilities. During the game, you'll come across implants that can be slotted into your character matrix that provide buffs like electric, fire, or toxic damage, temporary invisibility, damage boost, higher ammo capacity, and each implant is applied to a different action or ability. Some implants have a low energy cost and can be applied to anything, but higher energy implants need to be slotted into something that provides that necessary energy. A level 3 implant has to go with the C-ball break because it provides it with 3 energy points. So now every time I break a C-ball, that buff becomes active. A low-cost implant might be put on your weapon swap action, so every time I swap weapons, this buff activates. You can really customize your build and find wild types of synergy. For example, getting a free rocket shot every time you use the grapple, but then also finding an upgrade that recharges the grapple if you kill someone immediately after using it, meaning you can just start grappling like crazy and constantly firing free rockets. There's really interesting ways to kinda break the game here and there and create some really fun experiences. Sticking with the Hades comparison for a bit, there's a new addition of NPCs that are found in the corridors between combat arenas. They offer new ways to spend XP and tokens gambling for bonuses during your run, or leveling up a random implant. And one of these NPC encounters is ripped straight from Hades. You can talk to Walter White over here, and this is basically the Chaos encounter, where you get to pick a really nice buff, but you have to play the next 3 or 4 rooms with a debuff of sorts. Like double the reload time, or you can't throw a grenade, or you can't dash, something like that. It's an excellent addition, it keeps things feeling fresh. The experience always offers something new, like finding secret implants hidden in the environment, switching out your heavy weapon for one of another class, or just learning things about the personalities of the people on your team. The 4 classes provide unique ways to approach combat through teleportation, decoys, deployable turrets, pistols, lasers, grenade launchers, machine guns, and more. So yeah, Deadlink is awesome, you should all play it. It's undoubtedly one of the greatest first-person shooters I have ever played. And now let's move on to the updates. I have covered the other updates on this channel, talking about each biome and class. I have a beginner's guide for those who want to get into Deadlink, so I'm not going to repeat all that stuff. We're just going to talk about this update, changes, additions, etc. The first major change I noticed was the ammo count. They've taken out the perma upgrades for ammo capacity and simply unlocked max ammo from the start. They felt it was making the game artificially difficult for newcomers, and I think it's a good change because when you're first learning and you don't understand the marking system yet, it can be kind of annoying having to manually reload all the time and run out of ammo constantly. Another big change is the frequency of neuro boosters. You used to get these things all the time, now they've cut back on them while pretty much doubling their effects. So if you do come across a neuro booster door and you choose to open it, whatever buff you choose is going to be pretty nice. However, I feel the change in frequency has ultimately ended up burying this aspect of Deadlink, because I feel like there's almost always something better to pick. If it's between a weapon mod or a neuro boost, I'm probably going to pick the weapon mod, or the shell upgrade. And because you rarely ever see a neuro booster door, and when you do it's typically overshadowed by a better upgrade choice, they just get left behind. I've had several runs on this latest version of the game where I didn't get one neuro booster. They're like the Palm of Power in Hades. They're general stat boosts. There's usually something better to pick. But sometimes in Hades you'll get choices that you really want to avoid or you don't need. I might pick a palm over nectar or darkness or gemstones or a challenge door. In Deadlink, that's not really happening. I'm hoping they put an occasional neuro booster in the shop, which is something I've heard they're considering. A pretty important technical change is the one made to how armor works with secondary weapons. I want to thank the helpful community in the Deadlink Discord for breaking this down for me. But what was happening is that armored enemies were negating damage from secondary weapons. You had to completely destroy their armor before they could take any damage. Even if a guy had 1 point of armor and you shot him with a super upgraded rocket launcher, he would take no life damage, whereas the primary weapons would be applied to the remaining armor and then the health. They changed it to where both guns work the same now. The armor bar no longer works like a second health bar, and instead provides damage mitigation, so you'll be able to affect enemy health as you're damaging their armor. In other changes, challenge rooms no longer need to be unlocked, they simply start appearing and you can go in. And the challenges themselves, wow, they've really been improved. You've got these battles against souped up enemies like a mini boss fight, and they're suitably dangerous. The perma upgrade menu has been refined, providing a much more satisfying sense of progression. And with a changing cost, I find myself making much tougher decisions in what to unlock. My progress was wiped out for the beta test, so I had to play it from zero, and this time around I found the upgrading process to be more thoughtful and rewarding. New voiceovers have been added, helping to flesh out the story a bit more, and finally giving you a better sense of belonging in the world. It's amazing how much a little interaction with the crew can help your immersion. This place got a lot more interesting to me suddenly. As for other changes, I really just recommend you check out the patch notes. There have been all kinds of tweaks across the board to weapon damage. If you play the game seriously, you'll want to know about it. Of course, we have a new biome, Femto, and for the most part I like it. It's a cool structure. You go into an elevator and you have to choose an upgrade to go for. This takes you to a floor with a combat challenge. You've got fights against mini-bosses, and some of them are quite intense. A few of them are brand new enemies, and others are variations of previous ones. But the coolest part of this biome is that completing each challenge brings down the final boss's health, and these are tough, risky challenges. Do you want to risk death in an exchange for an easier boss fight? That's a cool choice. The final boss of Femto, the CEO, is a decent fight. It's pretty high pressure with the spawning enemies, and especially the invincible turrets she lays down that spam you with rockets. She's the first boss that's not a giant character, so she can be hard to target, which makes the fight last a while. I was really sweating trying to take her down because I just kept taking damage and couldn't get a good shot on her. Pretty fun, not the greatest, but alright. Sadly, there's no big ending to the game. The CEO just dies and there's a little dialogue. It would have been nice to have some epic cinematic showing our combat shell all damaged. I don't know, kind of a letdown. Let's get to the new class, Juggernaut, a tanky, high-health monster of a character that feels kinda like a riff on the Soldier class, which is great, because Soldier will always feel like the true Deadlink experience to me, with all that excellent mobility. Instead of a grapple, he has a flying punch, a really devastating charging melee that honestly goes really far. Just look at how it takes you across the map, even breaking sea balls. Of course, this ability marks enemies upon impact. His second ability is activating a moment of invincibility and then releasing the energy outwards, damaging and most importantly marking everyone in its path. A shell upgrade can extend the duration of the invincibility, but you can actually cancel it and trigger the explosion yourself. Both abilities recharge really fast, you'll have them back in just 5 seconds. You're going to be using them a lot. I don't know how balanced this character is right now, but he is quite fun. His primary weapon is a double-barreled shotgun that fires its 2 shots separately, but automatically. Fire once and both barrels will fire in succession. You'll have to go through a reload animation each time, unless you switch to your secondary and pick up more ammo, either from pickups or ammo drops from marked enemies. Then you can switch back and the shotgun is already reloaded. In many situations, you may not want to fire both shells at one enemy, so you can switch weapons after the first shot, then switch back and fire the remaining shell at another enemy. If you combine this kind of weapon switching with picking up ammo from marked enemies, you can just keep switch firing the shotgun without reloading for a good period of time. This might be the coolest weapon swap mechanic I've ever seen. You can also use the animation of your flying punch to reload and then be ready to fire again when you come out. The secondary weapon is so far underwhelming. It's a short-firing detonating rocket. Nothing too interesting, and it doesn't have the pushback of the Soldier's rocket launcher, though the upside is it does no self-damage. It's an effective weapon for sure. Eventually I got into it. It's just not that interesting. And the alternate versions of it are somewhat underwhelming too. The electricity version was not satisfying, and neither was the toxic version. The toxic one is fine, I guess, but I don't see the appeal of the electricity. Maybe with some specific builds. Juggernaut's upgrade tree is also really cool. Flying punch cooldown is reduced with every enemy it hits, invincibility blast explosion radius is significantly increased, gain temporary shield for every enemy inside the blast. Punch damage increases with distance traveled after activation. So much cool stuff to enhance. Overall, I found Juggernaut to be a really good time, my second favorite class after Soldier. I'm just a sucker for those fast-flying mobility options. That's it for my review of the update. Most of the new stuff is great. Some of it is a little disappointing, but at the end of the day, Deadlink is launching as a fantastic product that I recommend to anyone looking for a fast, fun, and especially smart shooter. Another Game of the Year contender for sure. Everyone go buy Deadlink, support this dev, they're an incredibly talented and wonderful group, and I want to see them making more games for decades.